Hi gentlemen, I've been talking a lot about boundaries and values recently, as has my friend QUASIMANDIAS on his channel about abuse and control. And they all coalesce around the same principle, which is standing up for your values, ethics, and yourself. This is who I am. It's nothing to laugh at for some of you guys that think it's beta male stuff. For guys that have invested years of their lives, it's a fairly traumatic thing, especially if children are involved. The thing you value, your foundations, have been taken away, and even worse, in a betraying way. Luke messaged me. He's in his late 40s and he just ended an almost 4-year relationship with a woman because of an ultimatum she gave him. She said, basically, I want a baby or it's over. This is a woman in her mid-30s. And to his credit, Luke stood up for himself and chose to end the relationship. He chose to stand up for his values. It's a hard thing when your heart's involved. And I don't care what some of you tough guys say. And okay, it was made a bit easier for him in the decision because, in his words, it was a tumultuous relationship, very fiery and combative. And good for Luke because he recognized that basically she'd spent all of her life partying and being irresponsible and having a child to the last minute of her fertility window. Ultimatums for me in relationships are frankly offensive, but in a good way, because at least you have to stand up for what you believe in and your values. The central question you should be asking when these ultimatums are given to you, and they're so hard because you value what you have and you don't want to lose it. But there's a choice between who you are, what you value, what is important, and giving everything up for something or someone else that you value. It's an either-or situation. You can't have it both ways. And unfortunately, this is what women sort of leave for too late. They think they can have it both ways. But time does not care. And similarly for me, in these crossroads in life where I have to pick one path or another, my mind flashes forward to what my life will now be like living with this person. What will my life now be for the next 10, 20, 30 years with a person that most likely, if someone's giving you an ultimatum, chances are you don't have a great relationship. You're fighting, you're distant, you don't talk, you're tolerating a routine existence because it's comfortable, and at least there's no existential kind of angst about being alone. That's why a lot of times these ultimatums kill guys inside and they don't know what to do because they actually have to confront their values. And some guys actually don't have any. That's the scary thing. I would say when you're confronted at these crossroads, gentlemen, you need to assess what your values are, what your ethics are, and just cast your mind forward, not very far. Okay, you cross this Rubicon, and for the next 5, 10, 20, 30, the rest of your life years, you are going to be with this person. But most of the time these things happen with guys who do want children, with women who have their foot on the accelerator. And guys feel rightly nervous because they don't have the rational time to assess. Notwithstanding, the laws and everything. That's, quite rational to be concerned about. But the arrogance of somebody imposing this kind of ultimatum, not caring what values you hold, not caring about yourself as a human being, this quite rightly is that feeling at the back of your head when a woman offers you this ultimatum. Not even offers, demands that you submit to her ultimatum. That scary feeling, gentlemen, are your morals and values and essentially who you are as a conscious, living and breathing human being screaming at you to survive. You say yes to something that scares the shit out of you like this just because you don't want Pumpkin to leave, and you're more or less just waiting to be buried 30, 40 years down the track. You're existing, you're not living. Can you can you exist like that? I certainly can't. Now, Luke quite rightly observed that men tend to have this glass half empty attitude when it comes to themselves in relationships. And I'd agree. But that speaks a lot to the value men see of themselves, the grateful, subservient nature they tend to have when they're in relationships, as though they don't matter, as though they should just be grateful being there, as though they've been let into some Hollywood celebrity party. And Luke admitted his kryptonite is curvy, vivacious, happy women. You know, these wolf in sheep's clothing, these neotenous, exciting, girlish, neurotic women. They act like loud, exciting little girls with no boundaries, you know. They're a horse that you can't control, a dog that chews up the furniture and rips up your carpet. Makes for a good drama, makes for a good thriller, God forbid. But do you want to live in that movie? I remember I had an ex give me an ultimatum years ago where she said, if we're not at least engaged in the next 2 years, then what am I doing with you, human? Well, call me a fool, but all I wanted was her and what we had then. I wanted the person and what we had in that moment perpetually going forward. You know, the way you do with friends and family and any other personal relationship in your life, where I love this, I trust the people over time, I can count on them because the situation and them, they don't change. I can count on this. It baffles me often where women want two opposing things: change and certainty, variety and security. How, and more importantly, why would any sane, intelligent person commit to moving goalposts? Even say if I wanted children, or if I wanted to just make her happy with children, why would I offer her that, knowing all the responsibility that I'd be putting in with house and working and basically giving over 90%, if not more, of my life, effort, time, even if you're trying to do the right thing by another person. Look, I can't live another's values. I can't live a woman's life. I can't live her life if it's only hers. It has to be mine too. It's got to be that conversation. It's got to be symbiotic. It has to be mutual in terms of our values and goals. I cannot simply exist in her play for the rest of my life. That's a momentary thing. I have to come off stage and come back into my world. Gentlemen, existence on its own with a female is not enough. You have to come back into reality. That will chew you up and spit your soul out. Ultimatums in relationships, gentlemen, are simply about overt control. And unlike any other intimate relationships you might have in your life, you know, friends and family, ultimatums seem insulting because they betray the intimacy, gentlemen. If you don't have a strong sense of your own self and a strong sense of your own values and boundaries, it's even harder, if not impossible. And the metaphysical pain you feel afterwards is that much more severe. There's this feeling of helplessness. It's not a good feeling of vulnerability. It's not an honest feeling of vulnerability. It's a submissive, dominated, abused feeling of vulnerability. Think about it. If you go against what you want, your values, and you submit to what she wants, you feel defeated for the rest of your life. You feel ashamed and that you've betrayed what you wanted out of life, your values. And you feel this way torturously for the rest of your life. You're in prison mentally for the rest of your life. You submitted to this. But also, if you go against her and you stand up for your values, you still tend to feel ashamed right after you stand up for yourself. But gentlemen, this is the salient point. If you listen to yourself and your values, you will feel bad for a short amount of time. It might be painful for a fraction of time considering the length of your life, but it'll dissipate fairly quickly. Whereas if you submit to her and ignore yourself, that pain is protracted through the rest of your life. Remember that. Do you want the pain acute and for it to be gone quickly, like ripping off a Band-Aid? Or you want that pain spread over 20, 30, 40 years? Think about that, gentlemen. Luke said, I am really bereft and have no idea what being a man means. When you have opted out of being a procreator or provider, I feel like I have no worth anymore to myself or society. This is what we tend to talk about in our circles, and what the world laughs at. Men's existential pain of not having any value outside of being servile to people and society. And even if they want to, Luke was married previously and he has a couple of kids, so you can understand why he doesn't want to have children again with a woman whose eggs are drying up and who seems like a nutcase. Men like Luke are all too common. They hate themselves. They don't have any self-worth. They don't know what to do. They feel like they're worthless because no matter how much they submitted and gave to another, the other person just changed their mind. Society changes their mind. A company restructures and you lose your job. You know, when these things that give you security as a man go, whether they're jobs or women or roles, are you still a man if they're taken away? That is a very important thing to ask yourself, gentlemen. And this is why I talk in my videos about the philosophy and thinking about being a man, being secure as a human being, having value outside of, you know, this traditional workhorse that just does what it's supposed to do. And then even if it does, we can just throw it in the trash heap. No harm, no foul. Well, no, not for the thing being thrown in the trash heap. I refuse to be someone's trash tomorrow. You know, the thing is not to be fearful of that, but just to never consider yourself a piece of trash in the first place. This is what boundaries are. The inability for anyone to throw you away, metaphysically speaking. And for people like Luke, guys who just see themselves as a workhorse and nothing more until they can sort of start to know a little bit about self-actualization and red pill ideas, once they start to grab hold of that. But before that, in this state, where guys feel worthless, let me just remind you objectively, this isn't just subjective and me just kissing your ass to make you feel better. Objectively, you're not worthless because your family and friends, and there's people around you that call you a friend that think you're good. So that's objective proof. See, give yourself a break. Who cares what some female stranger you met later in your life thinks? She was fun for a while. She couldn't control you because you stood up for what was right. Not against her, but for you. You refused to be garbage and walked away. That's a good thing. And let's face it, if she loved you and understood you, she wouldn't ask you to become somebody else. She wouldn't ask you to transgress your values and your boundaries. Heck, those are the things she should value and love you for. So yeah, fuck ultimatums, gentlemen. Ultimatums, especially in intimate relationships, they're one person putting a gun to your head and demanding that you value what they value, where they don't give a shit about your values and who you are, what makes you you. Don't feel bad about standing up for that. That's what actually makes you feel alive. That's the path towards purpose. Giving that up is this antiquated, noble, traditional notion of giving everything to others and the world and expecting nothing in return. No reciprocity, no conversation, no symbiotic relationship with you, the other, the world. You know, not even getting a little back. All you should be happy with is that you gave. Now, there's nothing wrong with giving, but to be ashamed of even asking for a little in return, I give an emphatic fuck no and fuck you. It's not cruel, gentlemen. It's the ability to relate to people fairly. that's got very little to do with gender and the sexes. If you take that off the table, it's simply about the arrogance of somebody wanting to use you like a tissue. A helpful bit of advice when you're going through this pain and you know the reality of what's happened and that it was unfair and you did nothing wrong, and compared to what you give, you don't deserve this sort of treatment and you just really feel betrayed, is give yourself a break by talking to yourself the way you would a best friend. Ask yourself, if your friend was going through what you're going through, the pain you're going through, what sympathy and advice would you offer them? Listen to that, because that's what you respect more. That's the kind of person that you can really count on. Don't listen to some female stranger that betrayed you. Don't listen to some boss that just sacked you from a job because the numbers didn't add up and, it's just business. Their mentality, when they don't respect who you are as a person, they don't see who you are, they see you as just business. So I would advise you see them in the same way. If they're not reciprocating, if they don't see you, if they don't want to converse, if there's no relational aspect to the relationships you do have with people and the conversations you do have, then a good way is to talk to yourself with the clarity of your best friend, someone that's not in the throes of the emotional situation you're going through. What would you say to a best friend that was going through what you're going through? Listen to that. Something to think about in terms of ultimatums in intimate relationships especially, and how unfortunately they're a bittersweet moment. Bitter because of the pain of loss of what you have to choose between. You choose one. If you choose one, you lose yourself. You choose the other, you lose her. What do you value more? And more importantly, what can you live with, gentlemen? Speaking for myself, I know that the more I stand up for my values, however much the momentary pain might be in what I lose because I need to stand up for those things. And I like to think I'm a fairly cooperative guy. I don't like using people for the simple fact that I don't like people using me. So I'm very aware of the fair transaction I have with life and the people I talk to and how I relate to them. The more I stand up for my values, the more clarity I have in life going forward. I never regret standing up for myself. I might regret how I conducted myself in certain situations during breakups, during those confrontational times. But all in all, I never feel guilty for standing up for myself in that moment for what I thought and believed to be right for me. It's not really worthlessness that we felt in those moments. It was just the loss of losing somebody and the betrayal you felt. Luke, you've got a bit too much empathy towards a person that has absolutely none. You can put yourself in her shoes and probably imagine the pain she might be feeling, which she isn't, but you're trying to imagine the pain she's feeling by you saying no. And from what Luke told me, she found herself another man straight away where she's looking to get pregnant. So really, guys, give yourself a break. Ultimatums are bittersweet, but the sweet part is standing up for what you believe, that in the long run, you'll be very proud of yourself that you did so. So I hope some of that was useful, gentlemen. Talk to you later.